Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on Hercules and the Space Gods, we will be exploring the UFO Entity Enigma. Focus will be on the reptilians, who are said to be our overlords and here to control us and to dominate us and to enslave us. My particular area of study is mythology, and in Greek mythology, the reptilians are not the bad guys. Cecrops, the first king of Athens, was partially reptilian. Hercules had a brief affair with somebody who was partially reptilian, and the first kings of Scythia, who were the descendants of that unions, were wise kings. You had the Medusas, which people have heard of. You had the Echidna, the fewer people have heard of. She was thought to be the mother of monsters by the ancients. But again, they were there. Some of them were good. Some of them were not so good. Some of them did constructive things. Some of them did destructive things. I think it's interesting that the reptilians came in after the Nordics, and then the Greys had their day, and then the reptilians played in our playgrounds, and now they're being replaced in the public imagination with the insectoids. From what I'm hearing, we will eventually get to them. I'm glad that everyone's here, and I'll go around. I will call your name, then please introduce yourself, give a little bit of your background, and then we will start our inquiry. Nick Curto.
Thank you, Hercules, very much for inviting me to be here. I am, well, this is now the 21st year we're celebrating of Disclosure Network New York, 21 years. We do 2 meetings per month, all year long. We've been going for now 21 years, just starting the 21st year. Mary Jo Fahey and I started this project when Stephen Greer came to New York for his very first major address with a large auditorium, and she and I worked on the publicity for that, and it was highly successful, and it was over. Mary Jo and I said, why are we saying goodbye? We should be saying what's next. And what's next was indeed came to be Disclosure Network New York. We're both very proud of that. I've always been interested in the subject matter. Oh my God, I can't think of anything more amazing than going deep into this subject. It goes past all kinds of other channels, including religion, including history. It's got my attention, always has, always will. I'll stop there.
Thank you so very much, Nick Curto. And now we go to Joe Foster.
Oh, Hercules, thanks for having me on. I really look forward to this. A little about my background. I was a science and technology program manager in my living days, if you will. I'm also an experiencer. And being from New Jersey, I was hoping to find more like-minded people and explore a lot of the stuff that went on here in New Jersey over the years. And with the kind help of Nick and other folks, we were able to get a group together, did a conference just back in October, the first conference of its kind for us. And I'm looking forward to expanding my contacts with you all, sharing information wherever and whenever possible, and just trying to move the needle on this. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I'm greatly honored. Now we go to someone who is actually a legend in my lifetime. Tim was one of the writers in the band of, yes, Tim Swartz with Tim Beckley, who wrote the types of books that shed light on my life, because I was always an experiencer and had a very unusual childhood. And his books gave me hope that I could enter this field of paranormal exploration, have adventures like he and Tim and the other authors were having. So Tim Swartz, the legendary.
Hi, Hercules. Thank you for having me a part of your discussion this evening. The majority of my career, I've been a journalist and involved in television news and production, and I've been interested in this kind of stuff for many, many years, starting out when I was a youngster and was kind of drug into it, kicking and screaming with no, real previous interest. But by the time I got into college, I used the facilities at my university to write articles for various UFO publications like Saga and Official UFO, kind of to help make a little extra money to, keep my, pay for my books and beer and things like that. That was a time when magazines, fringe magazines actually would pay a writer for their articles. It's hard to believe. But after that, I eventually got to know Mr. UFO, Timothy Green Beckley, and together we, with some of our other authors like Sean Castile and Diane Tessman and others, we were able to write and publish a number of books right along what we'll be talking about tonight in past and future episodes. So it's always an interest to me that we're able to get together friends like tonight to discuss these topics and really kind of bear down on some of these subjects in a way that hopefully will enlighten our audience and make them think a little bit more deeply about these kind of things, rather than just having a knee-jerk reaction if they would happen to run across something on Facebook or YouTube or something like that, because there are so many questions when it comes to this sort of material that we really need to develop a more discerning eye when it comes to this stuff, and not just automatically accept or dismiss these types of subjects just because they may sound too weird or not weird enough.
Very, very, very well put. Thank you very much, Tim. And last but certainly not least, Marc, who's visible. Is Phyllis with you invisibly, or?
Yeah, she's here, but she's not here.
I'm here.
Okay, so welcome to both of you.
She's here, but the hand will show up later. There,
There.
a glimpse of
We
the
got a glimpse.
golden-haired one. Well, I'm here with my Christmas bells. I froze. I'm in the tree. Okay, here we go. Merry Christmas, everybody. And
Oh, there you go.
Happy Hanukkah, everything.
There you go.
The joy of everything. And a friend of ours gave me a Bigfoot glass.
Oh, very cool.
Oh, wow.
There it is.
Yeah.
Walking with Bigfoot, right? That's the next show.
It looks a lot like Martha Stewart.
Well,
Just saying.
He makes a heck of a mouse sandwich.
it's just fun. Mouse sandwiches. Oh yeah, they like mouse sandwiches. I'll go into that. But thank you, Hercules. Always an honor. Always. We love being on your show. Anytime you make a show, we're there.
And I love having you on it.
And we decided to decorate a little with our elk and an angel of the forest. But and then I asked my crew, right, and the other day, if I was out with a group of people, we're out there in the ships in different places at meetings, and most people, I'm what's called a walk-in. I came in from space. This is my first time on planet Earth to be born, and but I've walked the planet as an Ethereum, which is a different frequency. We can lower our frequency to come in physical, which is what they did in the ancient times. A lot of these space beings coming to visit would come through. So we're on another frequency next to this one. We could invisible, but when they slow down the frequencies, they also have spacesuits and different things that help them do that, and they could stay longer. So there's ways that they do it. So I've walked the planet as an Ethereum millions of years ago as well. Dinosaurs, well, we didn't call them dinosaurs, but dinosaurs. And So that's how I got here, but I remember everything from before I came here, which is Atlantean times and before dinosaurs, and in space and other galaxies. So we come as emissaries of the Christ group, the intergalactic mission, and the Asteron interplanetary and intergalactic mission as well, his command. Now he works along, we all work along with the Ashtar beings, the Ashtar people command, the intergalactic command of Ashtar. It's not the Ashtar command, it's the Ashtar intergalactic command. It's different galaxies he works within with their alliances and the groups that they're with. So that's what I'm here to help represent. I'm not the best to represent them, believe me, but I'm trying here.
Intellectually, yes, physically, no.
Physically, no.
I have to be honest with you. Throughout my years of exploring cosmic spirituality, until I met you and several other people recently, I had very little success trying to understand the Ashtar command groups. Many of them seemed paranoid. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I'm not like diagnosing the term, but they were overly suspicious of any questions. They were very evasive. So the universe finally gave me, you and a handful of other people, so I understand the spirituality a lot better.
Well,
I'm saying that because you are an excellent emissary for the Ashtar command. Because again, until I found out that Tim Beckley was somebody who had channeled information, and I'd spoken to you and again a handful of other people, I'd kind of written them off. So you're an excellent emissary.
And I agreed with some of the things you said, because I saw some of the Ashtar information way back in the late 60s, early 70s. And I didn't agree with that. That is not the way they acted. So I thought these people are channeling somebody pretending to be Ashtar. And when to this day, even on internet, at different places I've looked at different information, my internet is unstable, it says for me, but they seem to be similar, talking the same way with each other, as if they're all reading things or something. But the writings are not the information the way we have it in space. So I didn't know what to do back in those days. I was like 18 years old or 17 or 16. I was like, I can't write to anybody about this information. Well, maybe I'll have a chance in the future, but who knows? And now I do. And the thing is Ashtar and the way that they promote them in these old writings, and some of the people online think that they're his son, maybe in an ethereal form on another place. But Ashtar does not have physical children here. But if you were his son from another time in
And that's
space,
because you have asked him,
yeah, I've talked with Ashtar a lot. So if they say they're his son or daughter or somebody or spouse or whatever they're saying, it's not what's happening on the ship. It's not the way it is. So they might have been his son, like Phyllis and I were children with Ingo. Ingo was our dad, but in another galaxy. So that's why I'm saying maybe they mean from Ashtar when he was on planet Venus, or when he was working in other places, a person might have been his child if he was an Etherian, because the Etherians can have children. It's the higher and higher Etherian frequencies that go frequency higher in this dimension of the one first plane that we're in. It's like looking at a ruler with all the lines. And so if we're the densest, which would be at the bottom of that line of the ruler, this level right here, and you go a little higher and a little higher, that's finer frequencies. Those are Etherian realms. And some of them are astral realms. So when you get out of body, you're in that realm too. So it's very difficult to explain it.
Only dealing with level one. You're not even
we're
into
dealing
the first
with level
yet.
playing level one, first level.
People don't
The other
understand.
levels go higher into the different dimensional spaces, but they don't have children. They're not going to have children in the heaven realms. So
The Etherians are definitely on the list, and we'll be visiting them. Thank you,
okay,
Marc.
so that was my thing about the Ashtar people. But other than that, I'm here to help and do whatever I can. They do show up for us as UFO flying over, and we take photos when we have a camera on us. But like Phyllis, we've told people they come around more often when we're outside, and we're not carrying cameras. And Phyllis's cell phone wouldn't work as a good camera.
They're too high.
So they do come to drop by and say hi. And sometimes I have witnesses like my doormen. They'll be coming over and they'll stop and sit there and they'll see the discs or the spheres, the big spheres. So they do stop in for me. They know where I am at all times, and I know when they're near. My message is to help the people ascend, get higher frequency. Is the word for ascension and not the word, but it's like we call it to transcend or transcending. So we want to get off these dense levels, get to higher planes where more information is known. That's all. And Ethereum planes are good, you know. Okay.
Thank you so very much. Today's focus is reptilians, and I shared a little bit about my background with reptilians in terms of my studies. During my astral journeys, or you can call them creative meditations, you could lucid dreams, whatever you want to call them, but I have a lot of these visionary experiences. I've met beings who could be called reptilians. And again, some were helpful, some were not helpful, just like people. So I don't have an opinion of them, again, as being good or bad. It's just they were entities that look like reptiles. Nick, with your vast experience and the DNNY behind you, what type of reports have come to you or have you experienced about reptilians?
What I have been told, and from other members of Disclosure Network, reptilians are not to be trusted. In a lot of ways, they are to be avoided. They are not to be trusted. They are enemies. And again, I'm reflecting what other people have said. My gut feeling, even when it comes to snakes or reptiles, always has been get out of there real fast. I mean, it's always been that. It's a fear. It's built in. I'm going on my gut now, but I trust my gut. The times I haven't trusted my gut was the times I made a mistake. True. A lot of the people that I've talked to are very disturbed when some beings can transcend a form and become other things. Sometimes things that people or ETs that looked friendly and good, when they're masking of real evil. And that's a really very shaky area that we go into here when, as you know, too, in real life, there are people that look great, men and women, and are very friendly, and yet they're not at all. They're out for an agenda. So what do? How do you navigate this? It's a really important question. Part of the answer has to be your gut. You have to trust what your instinct tells you. I talked to a policeman once and he said, Nick, when you're on a lonely street and all of a sudden you feel as though you're being watched and maybe possibly threatened, believe it, go with it. Get into, from a sidewalk where there's trees, get into the end of a road, on the road edge, and get the heck out of there real fast, because trust your instincts, your gut feeling. And I go with that. So this is a general answer to your question, but that's important.
That makes a lot of sense. In Western civilization, serpent and serpent-type beings are demonized. You have the evil dragons waiting for the night to slay them. In the Bible, you had the snake that walks like a man who tempted humanity and caused it to fall. So that is, and a fear of snakes is very prevalent in our culture. So everything you said is very, very understandable. I will share a quick story though to put a little tweak on your perspective there. One of the places I lived was in like a commune, I guess you would call it. There were a bunch of people sharing a house, and everyone had their own little living space and contributed to the rent and things like that. It was during one of the in-between times of my life. And one of the people who lived there, she was a stick fighting champion. She won all these awards. She was very visible in the magazine and stuff like that. So she could take care of herself. So she had come home one day and started to tell the story about how she was walking on Northern Boulevard and she saw this huge guy, and she got scared. So she crossed Northern Boulevard, which is always dangerous, even with the lights. And it was sometime after she crossed Northern Boulevard, she was looking, that she realized that it was me. So there's this big hairy guy wearing leather. So, so again, she wasn't scared of me personally. She was scared of what a long-haired big guy with wearing leather might mean in Northern Boulevard at a very late time.
That's a
So,
great story. The great story of what you perceive and what's there.
yeah. So again, I value everything you said and I agree with it. But again, just to tweak our perception or perspective just a little bit. Joe, have you encountered any reptilians? And if not, has anyone in your network reported activity with them?
Well, here, I'm kind of transactional. So what happens is my own personal experience with a reptilian, I'm not exactly sure. Nick said, you have to kind of follow your gut. You might meet people that give you a vibe, good, bad, or otherwise. But I've been looking at it from the perspective of, the 13, there's 13 families that rule the world. And that kind of ties into the things that I've read about reptilians as being, part of the royal family in England. The Queen has been accused of actually shape-shifting before people. Is it true? I can't say one way or the other. But the one thing I do know is that there is a cabal of people that are kind of calling the shots, and that we're all like marionettes dancing on the string. Now, for what reason? I can't say. But some of the things that are being said about a class or a race of aliens, reptilians or whatever, is that they are controlling us. They're controlling everything. They control the currency of the world. And the reset that we're seeing right now is kind of interesting. There was a report just last week of Klaus Schwab and a couple of other key people in the EU that were going for a meeting down at the Antarctic. Now, what that's all about, and he was actually quoted on saying he's going there. So, you could sit there and say, extrapolate, because there's rumors about there being alien presence either in the past or in the present and probably in the future. And that kind of led into another topic that was associated with it, that there was some type of a negotiation going on Saturn, or the moons of Saturn, where one alliance had defeated the Dark Alliance. They call it the Dark Alliance. And whether that's reptilian or something else, I'm not exactly sure, but it all kind of leads to the same thing. If you're controlling the world, you control the currency, you have a pandemic that is transcending every place. You're having, changes, transhumanism is being introduced to us. And is it all part of that cabal? I would say if they do exist, and I believe in the alien presence, but if this particular entity does exist as such, I would say that they're probably right up to their eyeballs in it. And that it's part of what we're seeing today at various levels. Now, it doesn't preclude other things like what Marc was talking about, but I think it's definitely something that may be part of the overall picture that we're experiencing. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I can't say that I met one personally, but I can say, based upon some of the reports, the families that are involved and have been involved for years, whether it's true or not, I can't say. But, some of us are related to some of these names too. So you don't know, but it's an interesting aside.
That is very interesting, and quite an extensive mythology has arisen around the reptilians. I know aside from the ancient Greek stuff and then the ancient Near Eastern tales, and in India there are the Nagas, and in the Near East there were fish people who sound kind of reptilian, and they're amphibian people, and all these stories from around the world pointing to the fact that there is something there. My wife told me before that she found an article, unfortunately I didn't have time to read it, about in South America they have little figurines of iguana people. So it's a global story that's being told. I know that in modern times, though, fictively, H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard, the creator of Conan, they started introducing these snake people who could shape shift and often took control of different positions and manipulated thrones. And that was like a continuous motif in their writings, and then their imitators or the people who wrote in their worlds after them continued to build that up. There was an occultist named Dorial, and the snake people, the serpent people. I don't know if you guys remember Dorial. When I was a kid, Dorial's writings were popular, but he wrote about the snake people also, and it kept it in occultism. And it wasn't until David Icke that this entered the mainstream and really got into people's awareness. And there was a show named V. I don't know if you guys remember the original V, where aliens came and they were actually underneath
Great
the
show.
were actually snakes and so forth. So all of these, all of these stories have kept these tales alive. And it's really interesting looking at the stories and elements that came from the stories. I haven't had a chance to do this, but to compare how much of these elements are actually ancient and how many of them arose with Dorial and David Icke and Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard, and then the people who write in their stories, because that would be very interesting, because mythology mutates over time. Like a lot of people writing about Thor who aren't scholars have one of his emblems, his winged helmet. And speaking about Thor, in Norse mythology, there is a serpent that circles the world called Jormungandr that controls everything. So there's elements of that controlling serpent thing. But he didn't have that hat before Marvel Comics gave it to him in the 1960s. But subsequently, to lower scholarship type of writings, that hat has become one of his emblems, because that's how he's best known to us in our culture. So with the snake people too, maybe we'll start this inquiry together to find out which of these are truly ancient, and which of the elements of the legend are ancient and which are modern, with them controlling kings and things like that. Yes, dragons were the symbol of royalty throughout the planet, especially in the East and Western. You have King Arthur's father was Uther Pendragon, so he was the great dragon. Dracula means the great dragon, and so that was a title that people had. And the serpents were associated with wisdom, like in Egypt and other places, and with the pharaoh. So that's old, and now I see what they're saying. It's like a modern retelling of this. So that'd be like really interesting. Thank you. Tim, in your investigations, and you had some really interesting thoughts about them that we had in the private conversation.
Well, Hercules, unfortunately, you went and said everything that I was going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, I think it is, though, interesting that you look at Genesis in the Bible and the talking serpent, when there are some societies that have actually considered that serpent to be a friend of mankind, because if it wasn't for the serpent, then there wouldn't be a mankind. First of all, it would just still be Adam and Eve, basically just pets, living in Eden. And because of the serpent, I mean, they were given knowledge and forced out of Eden, and we're here supposedly because of that. Now, you were talking about some of these, especially like pulp writers and stuff, who introduced the idea of lizard people, and you mentioned Maurice Doral. I'm not quite sure how you.
I think Dorial.
Dorial, right? Okay. And my notes here have him that a lot of that came up in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. The Atlantean. So I mean, that was I think that was something that was written back in like 1940. And then you had the idea of the lizard people occurring in 1934 and 35 with a man named Warren Shufit, who was looking for gold in California. And allegedly he invented a device that he claimed used radio x-rays to see deep into the earth. And apparently he discovered like tunnels underneath was it like Los Angeles and San Francisco, or Los Angeles basically, where he said that there was a lost city of catacombs that had been populated by a race of serpent people. So, I mean, you know, you have these really interesting stories that concerning the idea of a humanoid reptilian race here on the planet at one time and possibly still here. And you brought up the television series V, which the original one came out in 1983.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the ideas that then David Icke, starting in 1998, started to come out with, boy, I mean, you know, it seems like a lot of that stuff was cobbled right from V.
From V, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, which came first? I mean, did the writers of V have some kind of telepathic bombshell on something that may have actually been occurring and just made a TV series out of it? Or, you know, is it just strictly from their imagination that then became a part of our pop culture and then finally into the realms of modern conspiracy theory? Now, I have an interesting story. Back around 2000, I was helping Tim Beckley and the author who used the pseudonym Commander X put together a book that later came out as the Commander X Conspiracies. One of the contributing writers was a woman by the name of, let me find this now, what she was, Susan Reed, who I guess that her real name was Jenny Gospel from the United Kingdom. And as I was working with the chapter, her chapter was called The Suppressive Force. And I got in contact with her because it needed cleaning up quite a bit. Let me make sure. Am I still on, Hercules?
Yes, you are.
Okay. I lost my connection on this end on seeing everybody. So, but anyway, Susan Reed's chapter was about her interview with her then boyfriend, who claimed to be a reptilian. And he basically said that they were an extraterrestrial race that was here basically to dominate the planet and to take over the earth. I mean, just, you know, a lot of very same scenarios that you hear now. But again, I mean, this was written very early on, in, you know, like around maybe even before the year 2000. She later would go on and publish a book that further elaborated this interview. It was called The Body Snatchers, and if you look it up on Google, you can find it. But this was originally published in the Commander X Conspiracies in around the year 2001. I think is when we finally put it out. Now, allegedly, you know, her real name was Jenny Gospel, and that she supposedly drowned off a beach in Nassau, Bahama in October of 2009. So I mean, that's you know, my connection with the whole, you know, reptilian conspiracy. And it's weird how a lot of it has now been embraced by some of the more political conspiracy theorists who, you know, have brought this in, and of course have used it to try to discredit their rivals, their political rivals, saying that, well, we're the humans fighting for freedoms, while the other side are being run by pedophile reptilians. So it's it's like I had said, in my introduction, when you get into and read about this kind of things, I think it's very helpful that you also try to look into all of the earlier mythologies and stories that came about long before all of the modern stories with reptilians. And I think it would give us all, a better understanding on how these stories develop and grow and are then assimilated by various other groups to use for whatever their purposes, whether it be political, society, religious, whatever. And before I sign off here, I'll just say that some of these reptilian stories that have come about put out that the reptilians are actually not extraterrestrials, but they're from Earth, that they were here first. They came about probably in the time of dinosaurs, maybe even dinosaurs who evolved, and we're the we're the talking monkeys that somehow managed to not lay claim to the planet, but I suppose overrun it. And they're trying to make an effort to get their planet back from us. We're the virus, and they're trying to vaccinate against us. So it's just interesting how these early stories in pop culture can really make a can really take these types of stories and run with them, and take them to places that have really nothing to do with their original sources. I don't know if I'm making sense at this point.
No, you're making lots of sense.
Yeah, but and again, back to what I said before, people should take the time and actually do the proper research and vetting about these stories. See where they originated from, and see how other people have taken them and turned them around for their own purposes, their own gains, and it's going to be interesting to see how it develops, in the future, whether or not this will be another, you had mentioned earlier about, you have the reptoids, and, then there's the insectoids, is that going to, are the insectoids going to be the next bad guys in the whole pantheon of humanoid or other, other intelligences, let's put it that way, not human intelligence, but the others.
Those are very good points, and again, I'm sorry. I just I thought I was going to lead into what you were going to talk about.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, it was a good lead in. Yeah.
Are you going to do that research, or do you want help with it? I'll gladly help you get it together if you want. And
oh, well, thank you. I'd say, yeah, that's it is something that I think needs to be done properly and without prejudice.
There's a lot of things that there's a lot of folklore, Greek folklore, that most people don't know because it's not the classical myths.
Right.
And there are stories of underground people who can be accessed through caves. One type of being is called the Kalikanzari. And roughly it's translated into goblins, but they're not really, goblins. But they are the degenerate remains of ancient beings. So they they don't die, but they degenerate and become even more decrepit. And the Darrows of Shaver remind me very much of the Calcanzari, except the Darrows have Jack Kirby type science fiction machines, whereas the Calcanzari don't. They're just living in very primitive type of conditions. But again, you begin to wonder, you know, how these stories, because there are Greek people who came here, and I'm sure there's some in every community, and out of those people, there's somebody who knows the stories, you know, and likes telling them. So I've always wondered when I hear about the Shaver mystery and what you just shared, how much of that's based on somebody telling like Greek stories. And these stories do get distorted, because when I was a kid and I used to go to Greece, Greece was very primitive compared to how it is now. They didn't have televisions, and I got smacked by my uncle for talking about the television because I was making up lies. You know, when I was trying to show the television. And you had guys at the like at the Café Neon, where like coffee shop, I guess would be the nearest translation, but it's not quite a coffee shop, but people would sit there and talk and share stories. And people there claimed to have gone to America, and they were telling these stories about how once you leave the cities with the skyscrapers, it's all dense forest and dense, what do you call it, jungles outside between the cities. And if you're traveling, you have to be careful because there are primitive tribes that live, and they'll throw like spears at you or shoot you with arrows. And people were nodding, you know, this guy was telling them his adventures in America and how everybody in the cities is like gangsters, you know. So this had like very little basis in reality outside of the movies that he probably saw. But he took elements from these movies mixed in with Tarzan and Westerns and who knows what else. And he wove this thing, and he had a captivated audience of people who didn't know any better. This is pre-internet, pre-television, you know, and electricity used to go out every night for a few hours, so you didn't really even have that reliably. And I got to see, like pretty early on, how I could see where he got some of the stuff, and then he wove it together in his own way, and people believed him because they didn't have access to the correct information. And this guy might have been somebody who had a good reputation for being credible or having good judgment or telling a good story, who knows. But these stories do impact, and they do come from different places. Thank you so very much, Tim.
My pleasure.
And last but not least, Marc. And again, I'm going to compliment you again, Marc. Marc, Maria Dondria, and Diane Duncan, three folks that are involved with the podcasts and things. Actually, each of them gave me a piece of information that I had not shared with anybody.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, and they came out of the blue before they had a chance to know me. You can't find this stuff on the resume because I've never written about it, and I seldom talk about it publicly. So I was very impressed by that, Marc. Just want to let you know, and it left my mind open to many of the things that you and Phyllis have been saying. And also a little piece of trivia. When I was involved with being a deep trance medium, it was only a couple of blocks from where Marc was doing his thing back in the 70s. So a lot of the things he and Phyllis say, I remember the spirit saying way back then in the, you know, in the 70s in that part of New York. So it's always like nostalgia listening to Marc and Phyllis talk, because I get to experience that spirituality again. So on to you, Marc and Phyllis.
Oh,
And Phyllis, are we going to get another view, or because you're rarer than a Yeti sighting? People say.
yeah. You can peek through.
What has been I'm cooking dinner.
Oh,
at the
she's
moment. So
cooking.
Oh, okay.
what topic were we on besides
We're on
reptilians?
reptilians.
What's for dinner?
I don't know.
I'm making tomato soup and salad, but I'm making it from scratch. So can I just say something I was thinking of as I was making the soup?
The hand can come through, though.
Sometimes you just have to ask yourself, especially if you're an advanced metaphysical or spiritual person, how many times have you recycled back into this frequency? And how long ago did the reptilians get in control? And I'm going to say a very long time ago, probably millions of years ago. So when Christ came in, or when Christ was about to come in, and so they basically knew he was coming in a few thousand years before he did, they started to set the stage, and you can see it in the Bible when they had that metaphoric story about the serpent in the garden.
Yeah.
Correct. So I mean, really, what we're talking about here is something that is so ancient that it's staggering, and the fact that we as a civilization come and go again is just basically based on cyclical catastrophe cycles on this planet.
That's what we've been watching.
I just want to say that.
Yeah.
It's like how many,
Right.
this is all going to be gone away again in the not too distant future. And then we'll start all over again. And somewhere on this planet, there'll be another story that comes along to talk about, the serpent.
Well, true. And she leaves us. Well, she's right, because when we've been watching before I came here, we observed a lot of stuff. We didn't come in and mess around with people's genetics or anything. We find that against some of the rules in deep space, but races will intermix. And we have the other group, the Saurians. Those are the ones that have the snouts.
Okay.
Those are the ones that look snout, have a little lizard snout look. They're not always bad either, but they do play with the militaries that are dark, let's say dark people, whatever they want to do, dark secret stuff. So in each of the groups, and this is one I know on a higher realm. This is Dan Leal. Now, he's a reptilian, humanoid. So he's kind of little humanoid-like there. So we would say he was mixed, but he's an Ethereum. But I've met on the other realms, the Ethereum realms and everything. I've met these other beings, and the Saurians definitely have a snout. But then they're not all bad. And those Saurians have a tail. So they might be wearing a spacesuit, but they might be wearing their kind of outfits, but they have a tail. So if you want to say that's like the walking dinosaur transformed, yeah, some of them are from the ancient times that have learned and become more intelligent, whatever's going on. But in other parts of the galaxies and the universe, we have these Saurian types and reptilian types too. So we know, we've seen them, they come through, they land, or they come in underground. They like the underground, but they also like humid weather. So they would love our Earth to transform into more of that. So I thought maybe with the stuff they're doing here in the skies, the chemtrail, they're trying to create something, these working with the military. And the other thing, they use the moons of Ganymede and then Titan, and Titan has a base on it, like our moon is an inside base for these different people. Maybe the Earth people have shared it now a little bit, but when I was there, and I've been on the, so when I was out of body as a little kid, and I saw what Ingo Swan. So we have similar experiences, but they're humanoids. They don't look exactly like human Earth people. They look a little humanoid looking, but they have maybe this kind of eyes. It might be a little different. You might even think they're gray mixes. They look kind of gray. The original grays are 6 feet and change. These little ones that they're using are like genetic ones or something they've created. So they're hive-minded. And I want to add something with this stuff they're doing around the planet right now. There are beings working with the dark, we call the cabal. There are people working with them. But again, there's good ones mixed in. I've never physically met one yet, but I haven't been surprised. Maybe we have in different lectures. Maybe they were in there disguised, because I know they can do the shift. And when they're off, the frequency around them can shift in, and you can see their true appearance. The eyes might change, the skin might become scaled and modeled, whatever their patterns are, because they have patterns like lizards do, or even like stripes, they have all that. So people have witnessed this, and I've read lots of stories on where people have met them, or one was shifted looking like a human and went with somebody in a city towards Mexico or something, and he basically paid a girl for the night, and he went into a bathtub, but she fell asleep. When she woke up, she was going to go and say something to him and assumed he was going to leave her some money. I mean, that's what the story was. And she opened the door of the bathroom was open, and she saw him in the tub, and he was a lizard human. She screamed and ran, and that was it. When she went to tell her friends what happened, because they knew her, or they said, this is crazy. She's never talked like this. So she witnessed that. She said they look just like people, and then they can change like that and be, but it had to be in the water, like he had to get waterized or something. So this is fascinating stuff. But what they're doing right now with the things that they want people to take to monitor and have stuff in your body, etc. Isn't it funny? A lot of people are dying, right? So they do want you to leave the planet, right? They want the humans off the planet. But some of the fallen beings that are mixed and working with them, the fallen ones from the ancient times too, they're and fallen angelics and everything, they want the people to die. They want to take them before they get a chance to repent of their sins or whatever they got on the planet Earth. And I hate to use the word repent, but it's basically like ask for that, ask for forgiveness. That's all it is. So they're trying to get them before they do that, thinking they can take those people. But by making them die, they don't know that if they kill them with these things, an innocent person doesn't know they're being killed with something, they're being taken or injected or whatever they're doing. If they're murdered or killed by this, they win. They go to the heaven realm because they were murdered. So this, I was talking with Phyllis today because the crew mentioned that to me. They said, they're trying to do different things at once, but they don't realize that the innocents who don't know and they're just taking stuff, and maybe the elderly or they're forced to, and they pass and die.
I think
They go to the other side.
I
and
think
they're
another way
taken by the dark
you
side.
can say it, Mark, and that's brilliant. The way you can say it is that their karma for that time, for that life is erased if they're murdered.
If you're murdered in any way, you're not, okay, with wartime, people are killing each other with war. That, when you get to the other side, is nullified because they know you're fighting for your life. So it's not like I murdered that guy, but they're forced to. So there's a whole different thing that goes on, but karmically, you might meet up with those people another time. In this case, if a person, doesn't matter if they were a murderer or whatever, and they were forced to take some drink or whatever they're taking to kill them, and they should die, and they didn't know what they were taking to kill them, that was an innocent. So even if they were evil, really bad people or something, they still get a chance because they were just murdered without their knowing. There's another chance for them. It doesn't mean they get to the high heaven realms, but still they get a chance. So what the crew and the gang was telling me was, again, what I said before, they think we're taking, the evil ones think they're taking people, listen to channel people who are possessed, the demonic was coming through because a person was exorcising him, a priest. And the demon would say, we're trying to get him through the pharmacia, and the snakes and the hospitals. We're there, they said. We're there. And we know they're there because they could take over people's bodies if they get them weak enough. So this being was saying through this woman, we get them that way, and we want to get them before they have a chance to ask for forgiveness.
To repent.
Before they can be saved. That's what they were saying. So thinking of that again, if they're trying to do that, to swipe them down to the low realms and get them on their side, but by murdering an innocent, they get them to the good side. So it's kind of a funny catch-22 for those guys on that side. These beings are playing games. They've been here for thousands of years, over 6,000. We got to say dinosaur times when they did come in. And some of these beings were millions, millions of Earth years. Although there's people out there today that are fundamental and they think that there's only 6,000 years.
6,000 years, yeah. I've heard
It's
that.
not 6,000 years.
Well,
But I'm not going to go there. But the thing is, the humans are not from monkeys. That's not what happened. They have different species and different human types that were here and brought in from other guys and other beings. Now, the thing is, it's just like a petri dish or a science lab. This is the way I was telling it as a kid to my friends. As a kid, I was saying it's like Earth's a science lab. I can't think of any other way to say it. It's not a zoo, but it's similar to that. And different groups have their group that they're working with. So the gerbils are here and the mice are there and the monkeys are there, whatever they got. And that's what they're working with. We can't touch their group, something like that, like a class. You can't come in and play with other classes, gerbil study or something. So this is what's going on, but it's been happening for a long time because it's a resource planet. And we have lots of resource planets, but this one's a rare one, very clear of a lot of resources all at once on this planet, rather than some planets are water planets. This is a water planet, but it has ice, it has all these other things happening, and it goes through changes, so it changes around. But they do have bases inside, and they do have the tunnels, the ancient tunnels from thousands and thousands of years ago that these beings have created. And the ones that are saurian-like, they also came from here, but there's saurians out there too. So you see how they do this? The reptilian doesn't look like a saurian. The reptilian has a more face like this, kind of like that, but the saurian goes out. And the tail, that's the other thing. Some of these beings have wings. Some of them are for that dragon effect that they all think of in the past. They probably saw these people ancient thousands of years ago, and the stories change. Just like Hercules said, they're going to come through time and change and get embellished. But that fear or that warning signal, right, Nick, that warning signal people feel for the snake or the lizard, which I love them. I don't feel anything for the bad
You
about
mean
them.
regular lizard?
On lizards and snakes, I get along with them, but I understand the fear because if one time I was in the woods as a kid and a big something was coming in the grasses, was a big long thing going in the grasses and pulling it down, and I thought, what the heck? If that's a black snake or a copperhead or a rattlesnake, I better get out of here. I never stayed to see what it was, but I'm assuming it was probably a giant king snake. They search for mice, but they can get big and fat. So I'm not afraid of snakes, but yeah, you got to be respectful of all these creatures and gators and everyone. They're, you want to wrestle with a gator, but there's these lizard people down in the south in those swamplands.
Yeah,
they have tails. Now you got the standing type walking like a human, but looking with a snout. That's a saurian type, and I can't say, well, saurians are nice. I would like to, but I don't. There's good ones, and I know there's others. So people have been missing in the south in those zones where gators are too. And there's a story people know about. A guy had his car break down, his tire went flat, and he had to go fix it. So he's going outside to fix a pump to jack the car up, and he's in a back road between the swamps in the deep south. And he hears crunching sounds, so he's assuming it might be a gator somewhere coming up, and it's getting near dusk. He goes, something coming out of the water, standing on two legs, coming out, and he thought it was like a dinosaur. So he said it was, he had just put his tire on, thank God. He left the jack and the tire, or he threw the jack and the trunk and slammed it and left the tire, and he just took off in the car, and that thing chased him, got him just before he got in the door, grabbed at his trunk, and he went out to the cops. He came back with the sheriff, and they saw 3-toed footprints in the mud, big footprints, scratch marks for 3 claws on his trunk and everything, and the tire, everything. They filmed it or whatever they do, but that was a true story, probably 60s. So these are out there, just like the Yowie in the south is a Bigfoot type creature. So there's different ones, but we got to be careful. And like Nick said, you can go by your gut with these beings because they can be looking like your friend next. You just meet them in a lecture somewhere.
This is phenomenally interesting.
We got to feel them
from all sides too.
Yeah.
Marc is someone who is like a shaman, from olden times. He goes into the different worlds, and accesses the cosmic tree, and he interacts with demons and gods and other entities and guides, and then brings us back this experience. And then it contributes to our collective lore. And then you have warriors like Joe and Nick, who, this is an outrage. They want to do something about it. And, the tales start connecting with things in this external world. And then you have the chroniclers like Tim, who record this type of tale is emerging. And it's striking me just listening to everybody that this is a living, breathing process.
Yeah.
And we just got to see it here, like right before our eyes, so I think this opens up a lot of doors for future explorations. I'm going to quickly check the time because I know everyone, I'm very grateful everyone committed time to this.
It's a very special time that we're here on this planet at this time, because we're going to be going through a cycle of change. We can't say exactly when, but it could be pretty soon with the solar what's going on with the sun and our other planets. But this is part of the thing I told my parents when I was a little kid. Son, things are going to happen, but I didn't know what time, when it was going to happen. I just knew I came in for this to not only get my wife, who's my soulmate on the higher realms, but to get her back into with our crew and her higher self aspect. This is happening, and other people like our buddy Nick and you, Hercules, and all of you. We have your overparts that you're trying to reconnect to us to come back, because this planet and this system is going to go through changes, our solar system and the galaxy too, but mostly right now the solar system, because it's a cyclic change that happens with the stars as they come from the panels. There's a wave that comes from the other stars from the center of the galaxies. So when these patterns come off, the stars start transforming or changing frequencies. The scientists on Earth have already seen the chemical frequencies that change in our sun that match the ones that have already novaed or mini novaed or micronovas. So this could be happening, and it's happened in the past times. They had the ancient pictures, drawings on the rocks where they showed the blast of light. It's not going to be a blast of light with lukewarm milk feeling that some of these people are promoting online. It's a blast of light that is a flash, which can burn. So I figured that's why they're all trying to make things to get planets to get to the other planets. All these rich, super rich, they're building their machines to get out. But
I wish Olaf was here.
Not us.
Olaf is the expert on that. That's one of his areas of expertise, the secret space program. I think he wrote a
Okay.
book about it.
If I may just jump in briefly, I just want to validate what Marc is saying.
thank you.
The antenna behind me there,
Yeah.
we operate that. That's a radio telescope. It's a 18-meter radio telescope. And we were actually observing and we've captured the changes that Marc has mentioned. We went from 11,000 degrees Kelvin, the surface temperature of the sun, on one day. The next day it was up to almost 30,000 degrees Kelvin. That is phenomenal. That is an incredible thing that happened. We thought our radio was broken until we checked it out. We had Princeton University, who actually runs the antenna. They checked it out and everything was good. And of course, that was that major solar flare that we had about a month or so ago that hit Brazil. It didn't hit us, luckily, but it did hit Brazil. The other interesting thing that was discovered actually this summer, we were making observations of a pulsar, and it was in the Andromeda galaxy. So we go out there and we look at it, and the same thing, the person that was doing the observation noticed that we went from a 3.7 sigma, which is a sampling of hydrogen and energy that's coming from that galaxy, which is about 2,500 light years away. And all of a sudden, the thing went from 3.7 sigma up to like 3,100 sigma over a period of time. And it was actually a beam coming from the center of the Andromeda galaxy that was causing an effect that when you look at a star and it twinkles, okay, that's what you get when you look at stars. But if you look at a planet that looks very similar to it, it doesn't have the same twinkle. Okay, there's a condition that astronomers are aware of. And what happened was this beam that put out more energy in the X-ray band than all of the pulsars and black holes in the Andromeda galaxy put together. And it continued in a straight line, and it continued for a long period of time. Now, the other night we were talking with Jack Sarfati, and he was talking about bending space-time and ways of navigating through large areas of space and going against kind of Einstein's theory of relativity, general relativity. This sounded like something that said somebody is coming from someplace and probably riding this beam, 2,500 or 3,500 light years, whatever it is. But anyway, I just wanted to validate what Marc was saying. It was very interesting, and I got more to think about now.
Thank you.
We all do. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to ask anyone else before we start wrapping up?
Just a quick thought here. I feel that there is such a monumental attack right now. In all my life, I've never felt this so strongly. I almost liken it to the Nazis and the Jews and the Holocaust. It's on that level. And I'm wondering what each of our panel, how they feel about what I'm saying here.
I can answer that first, I guess. I feel that we live in challenging times. And these challenging times present us with certain questions that we have to ask and answer, and certainly certain actions that we need to take. It seems that in my 60 plus years here, this is one of the more difficult times in the here and now for a lot of people, and not only because of the pandemic. There's a lot of things happening now that are not very pleasant. But I don't feel, I feel that, again, I'm very optimistic that we can do something to make things better. And I don't particularly feel like there's an army of darkness or like fallen spiritual beings that, again, there are beings like this, and just like there are humans incarnate like that, that mean others ill and do things to harm. I believe that on the spiritual levels, it's the same thing. I don't perceive in my little bubble of reality any concerted spiritual attack on all of us. And again, that's just my little bubble of reality.
Well, okay, Mark.
Whoa. Oh, here we are again. Well, I guess saying that Joe wants Joseph, right?
Right.
You go.
Oh, okay.
I'll
Oh,
mute.
I just want to say I'm on the same page as Nick, and have been for some time. I would like to think that, everything's just going to kind of fold back and we'll get back to some form of normalcy that we're used to. I don't think that's going to be the case, though, for a number of reasons. We're now on the verge of childhood's end, if you've read Arthur C. Clarke.
Yeah, years ago.
And there's enough reasons, I think, to say this. The transhumanism, we are right on the verge of transhumanism with artificial intelligence. There ain't no going back. And that is a fact of life, unfortunately. Science has progressed that far that we're sitting right on the cusp of something else. Now, this is not to point the fingers at an alien presence doing it. I think it's just that all things thrown into the pot, we're now following a thread that has been laid out probably over the past 50 or 60 years, and we're right at the end game of it. What's going to come out the other end, I couldn't even begin to tell you, but it got enough questions to raise a lot of concerns. So that's my take on it.
Thank you so very much. And Tim?
Well, I think that we're seeing, and this is a continual process with us, with our planet, with the universe, with consciousness, where we are at this crossroads of evolution, and where humanity, our consciousness, we've got generations that are seeing that I think that there is more to everything than just the material. And I think we also are seeing some people who are afraid of that and would like things to go back to the way it used to be. And that's never going to happen. And we've always had that type of situation where, where you've got people who are like, look, there's new things, there's new thoughts, there's, a new world ahead of us. And let's go for it. Let's reach out for it. And then there are the people who are like, no, we like things that, the way that they were. And we don't want to change. And right now, I think that we are at a major crossroads. It happens periodically. It's cyclical, where it's not just going to be a gradual change. It's going to be rather an abrupt change, and there are going to be people who are going to fight back against that. But it's something that we have always been faced with. I mean, there were people who wanted to come out of the cave and look and see what's in the valley next to ours, and then there are others who are like, no, we like it here in the cave. It's safe. We want to stay here. And eventually, we get out of that cave and we go out, and I think that's what we are facing now. We are looking to we're getting a glimpse, a glimmer of what's going to happen, and the new expanding of our consciousness and our world and our universe, and so that's going to cause conflict. And is there any way to stop that? No, but I think that we just need to respect each other, respect each other's opinion, but let everybody live their lives the way that they want to live it. You live your life your way. Let your neighbor live their life theirs. If they want to, go out and seek that other valley, seek those other mountains, and you want to stay home, let them.
Very well and powerfully said. Thank you very much, Tim. We're going to be wrapping up. I believe it's a quarter after now. And I guess before we do, if everyone can share their contact information, how
I
people
don't know
can
if you
find
wanted
them.
me to share my thoughts on what you have.
Yeah, Marc hasn't done that yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the thread started with you expressing your thoughts. I will let you.
No, I
express
just
your
kept
thoughts.
bouncing.
My apologies, Marc.
That's okay. I'll say something fast because
Okay.
everybody's right. We're all right. With this information we're hearing and seeing and sensing, and all the people are sensing stuff, but there's people being blocked from doing anything in their life right now in other countries we know, and our friends are there who can't even leave their house, or they might get threatened with shots. I don't know, guns, not anything else.
Right.
But they don't have their guns, but everybody else seems to have them. That watching something like it's not an experiment. It's been happening before in other times and places, but in different ways with different weapons, they're saying to me to tell you this. But we should keep the trust in the creator, keep your hope alive. Don't fall into the fear and the fear porn or whatever you want to call this stuff that they're promoting constantly everywhere. We're seeing it constantly. We have to shut it out. We just shut it off. Just do that, but trust in the creator. The infinite one loves us all unceasingly, whether evil, bad, or whatever we are. And there are invisible people that are fallen types that they just don't want to get up. They just don't want to go further. They want to harass everyone, fall into drugs again, or whatever they're doing from other times that they lived on their planet. But this has happened in other places. And these first dense levels, these heavy levels, this is how it works. It's like trying to control someone. Always their narrative, not yours. Too bad for you. I got all the power. That's what goes on in these planets. So we have to keep the trust and understand that you are protected when your faith and trust is high in the infinite. I've had too many things happen where I'm invisible, made invisible. People don't see you. So they can do this for us, the angelics as well, our angels and guardians. But don't fall into the fear. Start praying more. Start praising the infinite creator more. If this whole planet started praising the infinite creator, you'd see a big change happen, because the children have stopped praising. They've forgotten how. And the fallen ones don't want you to do it at all.
Well, we stopped acknowledging the creator.
Yeah, they did. And they're trying to wipe the creator out right now, as you can see.
Exactly.
Everything is being wiped out. So keep the faith, keep it strong, and don't fall into the fear of it all, and constantly ask for protection and praise, because the creator comes closer to you when you praise. It happens. And we've experienced other people we know. You start praising, the room fills with the presence of the creator's energy. So we are protected. We just have to reach out. And the creator always says, this is what we've heard on the other side. Man is always trying to do things themselves first, like how, instead of calling the mechanic right away. So when I've had experiences like this where things happen to me, instead of trying to do it myself, even though I first tried, I went, wait, I'm a person, I'm trying to do it the way I think it goes, and I'm wrong, I don't know. I called out and a miracle occurred. So this is how
I just want to add to that because Marc is coming in from an extremely fine frequency, a frequency that is really quite extraordinary. It's because he was never veiled, and so he can get to his oversoul level at, he's actually just speaking with his oversoul level as he was talking. But
That's
the thing that
what I was talking about.
we know, all of your oversouls know on these highest levels of consciousness is that the creator is personal. Okay, just remember that. The creator is
to you, to
personal.
each one of us.
It's as personal as you want to make it. It's not the Buddhist, universe. It's
No.
personal.
The
So
personal
just
creator, it comes to
take
us.
that. If you remember nothing else today, just remember that.
Yeah, it comes to you individually. All you got to do is ask and call out. And it waits for us to call out. Because free will on this planet and all these places and where we come from, there's free will. So the creator will not come into bother us or enter our space unless we're open and ready and asked in some way. And that gives the permission for the creator to come. So that will protect us from these negative things or creatures coming up from below the ground, which they are in California too. So there's stuff happening around this planet that what we're going to get into with Hercules and cryptozoology stuff, but dogmen and everything else. But the Saurians and the reptilians, they're real, and they are under the earth as well. So but be protected. And like
Thank
Nick,
you
go
for-
with your gut.
Thank you for leaving things on a very positive note. It's always good when beings from above take a interest in us and have benevolent intentions toward us and
Yes.
offer to help us out. Nick, would you care to share how people can enter your world and contact you?
Sure. Thank you, Hercules. The website for Disclosure Network New York is dnny.info. dnny.info. That's our website. My personal email, and I certainly welcome questions and comments. NICKNYNY1, and that's the numeral 1, not ONE, the numeral 1 at gmail.com. NICKNYNY1 at gmail.com.
Thank you, Nick, and I can vouch for the fact that Nick is available and he's interactive. We met by exchanging a couple of emails. It's been years ago now, and we've remained in contact ever since. Joe.
My website is https at www.millenniumoss. That's MILLENNIUMOSS.com. And my email address is joseph.foster, and then put that at millenniumoss.com behind it. I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to talk with you all again.
Thank you so
Thank you,
very much.
Hercules.
And I'm honored that you're here. I know you're a very busy man with a very full schedule, and like me, things get fuzzy sometimes. So I'm really honored that you were able to make it. Tim Swartz.
You can find all of my books on Amazon.com. Just type in Tim R. Swartz, and they'll all come out available for your reading pleasure. My website is conspiracyjournal.com. I share that with other writers such as Sean Castile and Diane Tessman, and it has all the weird news and information that they don't want you to know.
And it's an awesome publication. I still have hard copies of it, a stack of them. They're really, really awesome. And last but not least, Marc Brinkerhoff in Phyllis's hands, or
Oh, that was me.
Talk to the hand.
It is such an honor to be here with you, all you guys. I love you all. Joe, I love Tim. I love Nick. Nick knows he's my brother. And Hercules, you're my other brother from another space. But really, thank you. You can reach us at mission.com, marcbrinkerhoff.com. That's an art site, and etuniversalzone.com. That's where we have the podcast with Hercules and other interviews we'll set up and have things there. And you can ask, email us for information. We do lectures, and we're going to try to do some things like Skype or whatever. I'm doing aura portraits for people, pastels, and oversoul readings, and what else? So we're doing different things. So if you want information like that, contact me at marcbrinkerhoff@yahoo.com, and MarcBrinkerhoff.com. And that's how you get to us.
Thank you so very much. And to all of you, thank you very much for being here. This was awesome. We got a lot of information, a lot of different perspectives out there. And if any of you have any events that you'd like promoted, I'd be more than happy to, or you have any books coming out or any projects, I'll gladly promote them on social media. And since Marc let it out of the bag during one of his comments, I had a conversation with him that I was going to have with all of you at some point, but I'll have it now very briefly. I used to actively investigate the paranormal last time, maybe 20 years ago when we lived in Pennsylvania. And I would like to start that again when the pandemic eases down. So locally, I got permission a couple of years ago, and I met with historians, and I did all this stuff, and the pandemic started, so kind of put a kibosh on that. But when the pandemic was over, I'd like to start investigating again. So you guys all have an open invitation. Like with the podcast, I'll let you know what we're investigating, and if you're at all interested, you're more than welcome. If you're not, that's okay too. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks to everybody who joined us. This show will be on YouTube if I do everything right by Tuesday. So take care, everybody.
Take care.
Happy holidays.
night,
Happy
everyone.
holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Good night.
Good night now.